Namaste guys. I want to make this video about discussing eclipses and what do they mean when an eclipse happens in a certain house in your natal chart. Now, tonight we're going to have an eclipse in 4 degrees Aries in the decan of rebirth, which is like a cusp of Pisces and Aries. It's a Piscean, what I call it. And it's going to be a full eclipse, meaning that when a full eclipse happens, you're going to experience these energies for the next 6 months to a year, and sometimes even 2 years. However, when we have a partial eclipse, which is not the case tonight, these energies last for 3 months. Now, the eclipse energy is much longer than when you have a new moon or a full moon. Now, full moons, they symbolize endings, and new moons, they symbolize beginnings. Now, what happens when you have a lunar eclipse? When you have a lunar eclipse, the ending is more drastic. Now, I'm going to start off with the first house. When you have an eclipse in the first house of self, of image, of how you see yourself, when you have an ending there, it means that you came into a conclusion of seeing yourself a certain way, a certain judgment. You know, you finally concluded that you looked a certain way, or maybe you quit looking at yourself a certain way, if that's how you want to see it. Or maybe you quit dressing a certain way. Maybe you quit being a certain way. It's really much of stopping to be something when it happens in your first house. When an eclipse happens in your second house of possession, of money, of what you own, it means that something that you owned might be probably taken away. It could be a signify a loss, or it could be that you're getting rid of stuff that you no longer want, maybe cleaning out your closet, you know, because you want to start something new. You know, maybe you don't want your old shoes, maybe, you know, something small like that. It could, you know, it could be the effect, or something drastic like losing your house. It all depends on what is going on with your natal planets in your chart instead of your transits, how the transits affect your natal. If you have a sharp angle like a square, or if you have an opposition, then that will be more of a drastic change. Now, if you don't have anything that's squared or opposed in your natal chart, then, and maybe you have a trine, maybe it's going to be of a beneficial effect, like giving something away you don't want, or it might not even have that much of an effect on you, to be honest. Now, when an eclipse happens in your third house of transportation, communication, mind, thinking, it signifies that maybe you might get rid of old thinking patterns, or maybe you might cut communication with a certain sibling, because the third house also rules siblings. Or maybe you might change your route going to work, which also pertains to the sixth house of routine. But, you know, maybe your transportation mode will change. Maybe you might sell your car, all right? Or maybe you might have a fight with the person that takes you to work. You know, that's the eclipse's ending in the third house. Now for the fourth house, deals with family and home and security. Maybe something might end with family. Maybe somebody might die on a worst case scenario, or maybe you might change your address. Maybe you might change your home. Maybe you don't call your home a secure place anymore. You've actually established that, meaning that's an ending of thinking in that dimension, in that house. The fifth house, when you have a lunar eclipse in the fifth house, it means an ending with children, pets, creativity. My lunar eclipse this season is happening like at the ending of my fifth house, going to my sixth house. So I had this little bird I was raising, and now it's been 6 months, and she's already grown up. So I'm not going to be able to feed her all day, you know, because she is grown up. So that means that ended in my life, of me, you know, feeding my pet. It's kind of like my little creation. So it's ending, you know, this week or today. And it also extended to my sixth house of routine. It's not going to be a routine of me waking up in the morning and giving her food anymore. It's going to end. So it was like right in between my sixth house and my fifth house. So it's ending this week for me. But back to the fifth house, yeah, when you have that a lunar ending in the fifth house, it signifies that maybe you might not want to create something. Maybe your project might finish. That's a good thing. You know, you just ended your project that you started. It's your creation. The 6th house denotes the health, routine, and little details, also little animals too, because it's a Virgo house. And maybe you might end a habit, you know, or a vice that you had, like drinking or smoking. A bad habit, they could die too. So it could be beneficial too. Or maybe you might be diagnosed with something you didn't know before all of a sudden, and all of a sudden, you know, you have to fix that situation. The 7th house could be endings of relationships with your intimate partner or with your business partner. And, you know, it doesn't have to always be bad. You know, some people think that lunar eclipses and endings are bad, but sometimes an ending's a beginning, you know. Something that's not beneficial to you, you could just, you know, it's a good thing to have a lunar eclipse when some things are not, you know, to your benefit. Lunar eclipses in your 8th house. Now, lunar eclipses in your 8th house symbolize ties with other people from maybe your in-laws, other people from your relationship. So when you have an eclipse there, it could symbolize that, you know, there's going to be a conclusion to a certain problem that other people brought, or you being involved with somebody else, or credit cards too. That's another thing. Sex too. Anything that you have to share with somebody else, it's going to end. So you have to really analyze what it is that you're sharing with somebody else if it does happen in your 8th house. The 9th house of travel, higher education, and higher knowledge. If something ends, if you have a lunar eclipse there, it could signify that you might finish college, or your course that you're taking online, you know, learning in higher, or maybe you came into a conclusion of what you were learning about. You know, maybe that chapter has ended for you. For the 10th house, it could signify that your reputation has probably changed, you know, from what you were before. Your career has probably changed. The way the world sees you has probably changed. For the 11th house, it could signify that your dreams have changed, because the 11th house rules the dreams, it rules inspiration. Maybe your friends have changed too. You know, maybe you've completely got rid of a relationship with a certain friend. You know, the 12th house, maybe your ways of viewing your childhood or the past has changed. Maybe now you see it in a different way. All right. Maybe you've figured things out in your dreams. You know, because the 12th house pertains to dreams. So yeah, this is a general description of what could happen in the lunar eclipse when you look into your chart and what you could expect. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and namaste.